What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 39 of the A7E Podcast. This is your host, Jigadrin. Guys, I had to do a separate intro video to the episode simply because I was not able to do it on the actual podcast. We organically went into a conversation that I was enjoying, so I didn't want to interrupt the flow just to do an intro video to it. So this is it. This is episode 39 with a good friend of mine, Walter Anoruo, out of Houston, Texas. This has been an episode that's been a long time coming. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, guys, please consider taking less than half a second to subscribe to the channel. It does more for me and for the channel more than you know. And ultimately, as always, I'll be massively grateful to you. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Now we'll go straight to it.
Let me do a quick IG story.
Mic check.
Huh?
You know, mic check or what?
Yeah, 1 second. Hold on. Yo, look at the camera real quick. Yeah. Hold on. Man, my damn phone sucks, bro.
What you got, that 2?
We got a 2.5.
Nah, so that's 3 cameras. I think you got that. What's that 12, 13?
This is a 13, yeah.
Dude, that's so wild. I just watched a short clip on there's a special metal that sustains the battery charge in cell phones and iPads and laptops and electric cars. It's called Cobalt.
Como?
Cobalt.
Oh, Cobalt.
Yeah, it's a disgusting business, bro.
But like, is that like similar to like the lithium battery production or manufacturing or whatever they call it, the mining of it?
Right. Well, it's worse because you mine cobalt to sustain a lithium battery.
Oh.
All right. And 3/4 of all the cobalt in the world comes from the Congo.
3/4?
3/4 of
Is that
all the
intentional?
cobalt. Huh?
Is that like intentional?
They just sit on precious metals. They've been sitting on precious metals since existence, I think. That country is just rich in metals. So watching this clip off of Joe Rogan, I was interviewing this guy who did like massive research on it, and he's been there, and there's like these massive I'm gonna call it dunes where you've got basically like 15,000 people like mining cobalt with their hand, no safety equipment. It's like kids. It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah, I've seen something like that, especially when they were talking about like they were basically trying to paint a bad narrative around Tesla and the batteries that they use for their cars, and
Yeah,
you know,
it's everyone.
yeah.
Every manufacturer that's manufacturing electric cars, it's all dirty. Everyone.
It's like really dirty though, right?
It's slavery.
Yeah, exactly.
It's child labor. It's inhumane working situations because now you got people working pretty much the entire day making $1 or $2. Like that is insane. But yeah, we want to get the latest iPhone 13 or whatever, right? But we don't understand that where these literally without this cobalt, you literally cannot have an iPhone or iPad. You can't have any of these things. You can't even make an electric car.
Yeah.
So it's pretty disgusting. I've like read about it, but then I watched a little bit of the podcast, and I'm like, wow, it's pretty disgusting.
So you know, whenever they say, for example, when you just mentioned, you know, because it is essentially borderline slavery, right? And they earn like $1 for working all day. Do you ever think about it in terms of their relative location and like, for example, we obviously can't equate to them earning $1 like it would be for us to earn $1, right? Like to live in America. Like, do you know if it's even or how drastically different it would be and how relative is actually earning $1 to their like living experience over there?
Yeah, that's a great question. Regardless, if you think about it, if you're with I don't even know what you use, maybe a hammer or whatever, and you're trying to mine physically this metal for hours.
Oh no, for sure.
No, doesn't matter what the country situation is.
No,
$1
yeah.
is remotely close enough to living, right? And obviously, the standard of living there is extremely low because that country has been stripped of all its natural metals since I mean, a lot of diamonds have come from there. That a lot of
Yeah,
people wear, and there's so many different metals that have come from there, and now it's happening again. I mean, it's the same country. It's the same country. It's just rich in metals, and it gets stripped from it. Okay, imagine if the Congo was run properly with a good president and got infrastructure, how rich that country would be, because literally the world needs what it's sitting on,
exactly.
but it's not. So there's high demand for it. So what ends up happening is you have warlords who go to villages and make people work, pay them $1 a day, and then the warlords ship these metals out to these big manufacturers or whatever, and they get the huge sum of money, and these locals are getting paid peanuts. And apparently cobalt's not it's not a safe metal to mine. I mean, you need protection and mask, and it's you can't even breathe it in, and they're just breathing this stuff in the whole day, every day. It's been going on for years.
Oh,
I heard it's
wow.
been on since 2000, and I think like early 2000s, and it's 2022 now, going to
That's
23. That's crazy, but that's a different topic for
Yeah.
day, I
No, but
guess.
it is interesting though, man, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're right. Like, whenever we go, right, the new iPhone comes out, all we think about is the device itself and,
Right,
just wanting it for whatever reason. And we really, and along with everything else, right, down to, big brand, like, clothing, maybe Nike shoes, Nike
right.
clothes. I mean, they all have their, child labor controversies, right, where we're just like, if you really get into the nitty gritty of it, you almost
Yeah.
feel bad for participating.
Did you see the Balenciaga thing?
Yes, dude.
That's when I read it first, no one was like really saying anything about it. I'm like, this is really creepy. Like, how is it not an uproar about this? Like, I was like, that that's child pornography.
100%.
I
And
was like, and then it didn't get big until like 2 weeks after.
yeah, like
And
it
I'm
took you about, yeah.
and I'm like, dude, how is this not so obvious? Like, how much evidence do you need? You had a lady who worked there who came out and started speaking about it, and well, yeah, well, we're consumerists. We don't really care where things come from as long as we get the end product, right? That's how this country is designed, and the Western civilization is designed that way for us to be, you know, which is driven by things.
Yeah.
And when you're driven by that, you don't really think of the source of where. And think, keep in mind, I'm back to the Cobalt thing. I'm obviously a fan of electric cars, a massive fan. When I read
Like
this, I'm
Tesla?
like, huh?
Like Tesla?
Anything that was electric, full electric. I love Teslas, but I heard they're not even the best electric
Yeah.
cars in the market right now. So I'm like, okay, well, I started doing research and seeing that they're actually making a lot of really good, and I like technology. That's the problem. I just like innovation.
Mhm.
I really, and I have this thing for cars where like I like to see new designs, and doesn't matter what company makes it, as long as it's looking at this innovative. But when I read this, I'm like, this can get political, but we can save it. But it's more like there's a lot of let's just say liberals who think that electric cars are the future. So there's a massive push for electric cars now. But I'm like, at what cost?
Of course.
That is the cost of electricity. I mean, it's the cost of electric cars and these products that we have, like iPhones and whatever, and iPads or whatever. Is it worth? Is it comparable to the cost of mining oil or drilling oil? Is it like, do you like, if you were to weigh it, like,
Yeah.
would it be the same? Because when you drill for oil, I mean, you have a location, right? Let's say it's in a neighborhood. What's the worst case scenario? It's in a neighborhood, or it's in you know what's it called, like land owned by Native Americans, right?
Right.
Like something like that. What's like the worst case scenario? If it's in a desert, it's in a desert. You just go drill it. You don't really care, right? But if it's in like a um, yeah, like Holy Land or whatever you want to call it, that's owned by Native Americans, then you would have to evacuate them to be able to access that site, right?
Right.
And for sure, that is terrible. But is it comparable to human slavery and
Yeah.
child labor?
No, I
It's
definitely.
like one of those things, so it was interesting to see because now there's this massive push for it, and obviously the more demand you have for anything, like the more like you need more labor, and if 3/4 of it come from the Congo, then like I don't know, man, it's such a it's a crazy thing. And you learn new things every day. So now I'm like not sure if I actually even want an electric car because I know what it takes to make that, and I don't know if
So,
it's worth it. You know what I
so
mean?
that's definitely difficult in the sense like I get it, right? You don't want to participate in the things that are essentially coming from a negative space.
Right,
But then that's what I'm saying. It's like if you think about that, if, for example, electric cars, and then you think about the iPhone, and then you have to, if you're that person, to think about other things, right? And
right,
and essentially, you're gonna end up naked, like on the street,
right, right,
and it sucks. It really does, and that's why I asked you. I was like, what's the relativity of having a dollar where they're from and us here. And you're right; it doesn't matter if regardless of what's going on, it's slavery and it's
right,
just unjust and it's difficult because that's all they market is that end product. So
right.
that's all they show us. That's all we want. If they were to attach a story to the product, like just so this is,
Oh yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
maybe you'd have like two sides.
Reverse marketing.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you'd have two sides where you'd have a group where they're like, you know what, we don't want to participate, and maybe you still have the group that are like, okay, well, whatever, like they're getting paid, but
Right.
so it
But
just
how rich are these companies?
massively.
I love Apple. Like I love Apple. Like I love their products. I love their innovation. They have a good leader. They have a great team. Um, but like I have an iPhone 6. Like
Okay.
I have an iPhone. Like I don't feel the need to change anything. I don't why for a
Yeah,
new camera.
yeah.
Like it doesn't even make any sense to me. Why am I gonna pay $1,000 for a cell phone? Like how
I agree.
ridiculous is that?
You got to finance it, bro.
Yeah, bro, for real.
No, but
It's mad. Yeah,
no, you're right though. Essentially, I didn't get into iPhones probably until about like 4 years ago. I was the Android first, but I like it. I really do. A lot of people don't, and I went from the iPhone X to the 13, which took me about 3 years to get there. And it's essentially because my phone cracked out, like the
right.
phone I was using it for. But yeah, man, you're right. I mean, like I said, when you get into the rabbit hole of everything in life, you start to feel weird about your own existence and like everything about your participation of the things that you have. Like
Yeah.
if you really get into the rabbit hole of it. But I mean, because I have before, I really sat there literally in this chair and I'm just like, dang, bro, like you know and then sometimes we sit in our own existence and space and we're like we think we have it bad for whatever reason, whatever we might be going through, and it's just like we really do got it ridiculously good if you compare it to a lot of like other situations. It's
Bruh.
like it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
almost a definition of rich essentially,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and
It's crazy. Um, it's like jumping on top of it, but I was like, well, I posted this thing today about this whole cobalt thing, and I'm like, I wonder if there was ever a time in human history where there was no slavery.
no, it
There
couldn't.
literally cannot be.
I mean, maybe in like the first 20 minutes, like people. No, no, like because even
That's
if
crazy.
you're talking about biblical times, I mean that's
Right.
yeah,
Right. That's crazy. I literally, I'm like, I thought about like, man, I wonder if there was a time where there was like no slavery whatsoever. Like people don't feel the need to own somebody else to get something out of them, you know? Um, but yeah, when you sit and think about things and how we live here, I mean, sure, of course, people struggle. I mean, that's people struggle oh, not everywhere in the world. If you live in Qatar and the United Emirates, you don't struggle because there's no crime. They have good systems there. I mean, literally, apparently, it's like an amazing place to live.
Yeah.
No matter what the media says, I have friends who've been there. Like, dude, there's no dirt. There's no dirt in the street.
Mm.
In the United Emirates, my friend was like, there's literally no trash anywhere. So you can leave your laptop somewhere and for hours and come back and it'll still be there.
Is
Like,
that like a group effort, or is that essentially like systems for that?
well, it's a society thing.
Mm.
You don't have poverty, right? Everyone is doing pretty decent.
Mm.
Um, there are no taxes, which is, I mean, I don't know what that means, but there's just like no taxes, right? It's like kind of some of the benefits of living there. You can go there and start. You can start a business or whatever. If you want to move there, they want people to move there and come visit. So you're pretty welcome. There's no trash in the street. There's no crime. You can walk around and no one's gonna harass you. Um, it's made that way for a specific reason, and you start, you start looking at these things, and yeah, there's some countries who are doing well, but like for example, here, like you know, it's easy. It's easy to sit through your day and think you have it bad when you don't have perspective. Perspective is everything.
Oh, 100%.
It's everything, right? If you're, I was not born here. I was born in Nigeria, and I've moved around. I travel a little bit, obviously, that. But you know, I used to get water from a well, so I have like real perspective. You know, what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't grow up with running water, right? I didn't grow up, uh, you know, turn the water tap and you just have a shower. Like literally never had that until I moved to America. And I'm not saying I had it bad either. Like I had it pretty good there. You know what I mean? Like I had it good.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking I had it good then.
Okay.
'Cause I was aware of other situations, I'm like, I have it good, right? So think about that.
That's
So
intense.
I
Wait,
had
wait.
it good.
How did you have that perspective at that time? Like, what else was going on, or did you see that actually gave you that perspective, or were you just, I guess, essentially grateful or conscious that maybe you thought you had it good, if that makes sense? Like, were you comparing your situation to something else?
Right. Yeah. So it's weird. I almost lived in a perfect place,
Okay.
meaning what I could see. So like where I lived, there was this apartment, but the cool thing about this apartment, I would live in the top. It's a 2-story apartment. We live in the top floor, and just imagine like a rectangle shaped apartment, and there's apartments and stuff on the side, but I lived right in the front of it, and I
Okay.
had a balcony, so I can see everything and everyone all the time. I had a public school in front of me. I had a mosque to the left side of the street in front of me. I had neighborhoods on my right that were not so nice because those neighborhoods, there was like like those dump sites you see when you drive by pretty far.
Yeah.
There's a neighborhood, and I lived maybe 120 meters from that dump site, or 200 meters, and it wasn't that close to me, but I thought I had it good still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew, and then I could almost see the world, and I remember being extremely observant at a very young age because I was always thinking about what everyone was doing and why they were doing what they were doing. I've always been like that. So even then, I knew I had it well because we had an apartment. We didn't have
Mm.
running water. We had an apartment. Some people lived in just a one room, like a one room apartment, basically with like their family of five. But I knew I had it good because I had an apartment. We had like I think we had 3 rooms in the apartment. We had a shower, we had a toilet, but nothing was not running water. But we had space for that
Yeah.
versus sharing space with like 20 other families. So I always knew we had it good then. And then coming here, I
Wait. Real quick before you move on from that. So if I can be completely honest, right? You say you're from Nigeria, right?
mhm,
From where in Nigeria?
Lagos.
Correct. See, I knew that. I really did. I just wanted to make sure, for the listeners. So
Right.
when I think of Nigeria, right, I really only have the slight perspective that the media gives me as
Right.
a person, right? Like movies and stories or articles, whatever. And they really do portray like a very broken,
Mm-hmm.
country or place, very massive poverty. I really hardly ever get like positive images, right? and I
Yeah.
and I know that's not true. I really already know that, from you personally, but also when you dig deeper into Africa as a country as a whole, you really start, to realize the benefits of itself. But can you debunk that a little bit? Like maybe not just Lagos, Nigeria, or maybe just Lagos, Nigeria. Is it like what the movies show us, where it's like essentially a favela type of situation?
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, that's definitely there for sure, but it's so funny. If you would think of any car in the world worth whatever money, it's in Nigeria, and someone's
Mhm.
driving it. Any car, not just one, multiple people are driving it.
Hey, that's a good way to put it.
Multiple people. A Koenigsegg, which is like I don't even know, it's like freaking four. It's a $10 million car or something like that. It's there. Porsche's there, Lamborghini's there, Ferraris, it's all there. Lambo trucks, it's all there. And stylish, like maybe gold plated, silver plated, like it's
Yeah,
all there, all
yeah.
there. So you have both. The thing in Nigeria is you don't have a middle class. That's always been the biggest issue in Nigeria.
Mm.
You have extreme wealth and extreme poverty. But the extreme wealth is like I don't know, bro, Atlanta, like Atlanta. You can see Atlanta in Nigeria. Like it's you, and you got like for example, if you have money there, you don't buy a house, you buy land, and then you build your house. That's
Okay.
like a different style of different way of thinking of how they perceive getting a home. So they get the land. Everyone wants to customize their house to how they want. You
Mm.
don't see these neighborhoods where it's like kind of the same. You just know it's different houses, right? And there's extreme wealth and extreme poverty. I mean, it's that simple. But there will, and think about it like this: Nigeria is like the number four richest oil nation or country in the world. I think it's number four. It's definitely like top five, maybe top seven, top 10 for sure.
Mm.
But I think it's like number four. Um, one of the richest people in the world is from Nigeria and lives in Nigeria. He's a multi-billionaire. Runs his massive cement factory. He has like I don't know how many businesses. He's a multi-billionaire. I mean, he's filthy rich, right?
Yeah.
Like Elon rich, and people say Elon's the richest man in the world, but he's up there as well. So it's a little bit of both that you see. You just don't see the nice things, um, the nice houses and the nice cars and the nice streets and the nice neighborhoods. You don't see that. You just see they paint this picture of it's being a poor country and it's
Yep.
the slums
Yep.
and while it's there you have to show both.
Yeah.
um,
So then talk to me a little bit about when you came here to the States, correct?
right. Yeah, I moved straight from here. I moved to Houston straight away, actually, which is I've
Oh,
been. Yeah, I moved straight to Houston, and yeah, we we won. The way we got here was won a lottery visa. So lottery visa is you just think about actually winning like a lottery. It's the same, I guess, equality as winning a lottery because it's extremely rare. It's like if you won a lottery, you're like, wow, I'm like set rest of my life.
I didn't
So
know that.
yeah, it's the same as winning a lottery visa because I mean, think about this. If you have a country where there's extreme wealth and extreme poverty not distributed well, there's no middle class, and people have a chance to move to America. And it's funny the perception of what Nigerians think about America. They think it's a land of obviously it's a land of opportunity, right? You would think that if you're from a poor country, which it is, a slightly poor or whatever, it's just some poor poverty in it. But you have thousands hundreds of thousands of people applying for the same thing,
That's a good point.
right? So the chances of you winning are extremely slim. Um, but it was my mom. She was talking about, yeah, she was talking about this, and she was young apparently. I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. She just always said to her sisters before she had us, she was like, I want to move to Nigeria and I want to study medicine. And she said it every single time. Every time. That's all she wanted to do. And then when she had my brothers, my younger brothers, um, like right when, almost like right when she gave birth to them, or maybe like a year after, uh, a friend of hers said, like, you should apply, and she applied, and then we won. And
What?
yeah, it was so. That I remember how crazy it was, because it's like, okay, you lived your life in this country, that's all you've really known, and everything else you've seen was on TV, right? Like literally. And this is, so the TV thing is actually kind of funny. So I'll circle back, because so where I lived, there was never really consistent running electricity. So you didn't always have power, right? So sometimes power would be there, sometimes it just wouldn't be. It might be out for 2 3 weeks. You wouldn't have electricity. Um, so when you didn't have that, I mean, you only watch TV when you have power. You can't,
Correct.
you know what I mean? Like you can't, unless you have a generator, then you can do it. And we had a generator, I believe. So we're able to watch it sometimes, but you wouldn't have it on all day. You'd have it on, at night to cool down the house and stuff like that, right? To turn fans on and stuff. So I only saw I only knew about America like what I saw on the movie, which I think I saw like Terminator or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw Terminator, or some movie where like, I thought people in America like could fly, or like just like weird things, because I saw some movies. So I just, whatever I saw, I thought that was literally what was happening. And like if I saw a robot, I'm like, yeah, they have robots there. And I was like probably like 9 or 10, so that's I didn't know better. So imagine this idea you have of this place that all you saw. Imagine watching like The Matrix when you're
Yeah.
10 in this country, and then you're about to move to the country. You probably think like, oh my god, that country is crazy. Like like you can't. You know what I mean? Like you can't even talk about this country, right? Like it's a wild. It's like it's not even real in your head. It's not
Yeah.
real to anyone. You
Yeah.
know. So the idea of us actually moving here was insane, because I remember my mom saying, "Hey, don't tell anyone, right? Because you have jealousy and
Hmm.
blah blah." And then I remember telling this guy, it was my friend, I believe. I was so young, I don't remember. And I was try, I mean, how could you not tell somebody you're moving? How can you not talk about that in school?
Yeah.
I just remember getting laughed at hysterically because they thought I was just lying
Oh, they didn't believe you.
at all, not even close.
Yeah.
They was like, "You're gonna go there and start flying, bro?" And I was just like, "What?"
Yeah.
And in my head, I wasn't even mad. Well, I don't know if I was mad. Maybe I was slightly upset, but I was like, well, whatever. It sucks to suck, because I'm actually moving. You know what I mean? so,
Someone's
so
like, hey, I'm actually going, bro.
like I am actually going. So whether you want to believe it or not, it doesn't really matter. So that's cool, bro. So yeah, then we moved here. My aunt lives. She used to live in Houston, so we moved in with her, and then we got settled in, and then yeah, you start chasing the American dream, and you see, you kind of see where you land.
Damn, bro. That's honestly, that's insane that your mom won essentially, like you mentioned, the equivalent of the lottery itself here. That's crazy, and I think that's awesome. So you're here, you got here, so you were, how old were you when you landed essentially?
I think I was 11,
Okay.
11 or 12.
Okay.
Let me talk about another craziest thing about her winning that thing. It's like that thing you always hear in every motivation of the video. It's
Yeah.
like speak what you want into existence. You
Yeah,
always hear that, right? Like what are the actual chances? Like what are the actual, like the fact that I'm here is insane.
that's crazy, bro.
It's literally like, I don't even know. Like how do you like the I don't even know how to like describe it. You can't even say flip a coin, because that ratio is too high, 50-50, right? That's way too high.
Yeah.
The actual chances is like one out of, dude, I don't even know, 500,000, a million, 2 million.
Yeah,
three
because
ten.
essentially, yeah,
Because
you're saying
Nigeria is a massive melting pot of people. You have people from ages. I don't know what the numbers were, but there's like a study I saw. There's like people from ages like 18 to 22, and there's like 10, like a crazy number of them. Just a crazy number of you know teen, like whatever, like young adults who are just ready for opportunity. And you ask any Nigerian family if they had a chance to move here or move to Europe, they will all tell you that they have to study engineering or medicine. That's it. That's it. You wouldn't hear anything else. The reason is because they know it's an opportunity, so they want to study the best academics to
right.
get the best job. That's just your mentality. You know what I mean?
Wow,
So that is literally. I promise you, if you literally were to like do a survey, engineering, medicine, that would be like your top two, and it wouldn't even be close.
that's
It would
interesting.
be like 90, 93, 94%, and the rest of it's 5%. I promise you. I promise. It's
So
crazy.
is that like a sense of I don't want to say like survival mentality, from essentially Nigerians when they come here? Is that, would you call that like survival mentality, or like uh, submit, like security mentality, if that makes sense? Like, I don't care what options there are.
Right,
I know what it was like to be in Nigeria. I'm going to
right.
study the best so I can have.
It's a bit of both, but it's also a bit of pride. You don't want to, it's almost like a wasted opportunity. Like if
No, yeah,
right, like if you're 6'5" and Kyrie gives you an alley oop in an All Star game, you're gonna yam it if he's your first game.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna slam that thing, right? You're not gonna miss the dunk, right? So it's like it's a little bit of all three things, and it's also and also it's a massive security thing as well because when you leave poverty, it's an opportunity. Like, does that make sense? Like when you leave poverty in a place where you have a chance, you understand what that means because you didn't
yeah, of
really
course.
have one, right? So then your perspective changes, and then it doesn't even matter if you like what you're studying.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
People here are like, "Oh, I don't like this." Like, that does not exist. It's not a like it. Like you just got to figure it out and get it done because pretty much everything can be figured out and be done, right?
Yeah.
So that's the mentality that people have, and it's extremely strong. And I think it's an extremely strong mentality, but it's one that you can't get until you're in the situation. That's the only way to really understand it, right? Yeah, I think it's an extremely powerful mindset. I mean, really think about people who you've heard saying, "I don't like this. I'm going to switch my major and
Yeah.
this and that."
100%.
It's like, no, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a pharmacist. Like there's no if, ands, or buts. Like you're just going to get it done, and that's I think actually not thinking about that's actually a crazy mentality to have and very impressive.
No, yeah, and I think to be honest, I think it's the ideal mentality to have.
Right,
To have that mentality, but not just to have it, but to also be able to stick with it, right? To
right,
finish what they
right,
started once they set their mind on it. Just as an example, so my big brother Manny, he's like, when it comes to school and books, bro, like he's a genius. It's dumb, honestly. For him, school was always pretty easy, but one of his flaws when he started school was, dude, in I think 4 years, he ended up changing his major like every year, right? So essentially, he pushed back all his academics. I mean, he just graduated. It's hard to explain, but he literally did what he should have done in 4 years, and he did it like in 10. You know,
right,
and
right, right,
it was simply from just the mentality of like, I'll just change it, I'll just change it, I'll just change it, when he could have been done decades ago, bro.
right.
So yeah, I think that is the ideal mentality to have, but to be able to execute and finish what you started is the biggest thing that impresses me.
Yeah. Well, think
Um,
about this. What if, like, what if your brother had that mentality? He's like, okay, I'm actually gonna get like 3 degrees.
yeah,
Like that's a if you start something and you see it through because you just have a different mentality, you could have 3, 4 degrees. People have like Nigerians have that. Like they go, and it's like I want to have my bachelor's. Like that's the thing. It's like they want to get the highest thing, like the highest academics possible. Like I want to be a doctor, like a PhD, like a pharmacist. I want to own my like it's like the peak. They want to get to the peak. You know what I mean? So it's. But then you can understand that if you haven't been in that environment, right? So it's a little bit different for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, no, of course, and I always say that about anything in life. It's like you really, sure you can have an idea of what anyone goes through, but you will not understand. You won't truly understand it until you experience, whatever it is that they went through.
Right.
Like the saying goes, you walk a mile in their shoes. That's the only time that you'd be able to truly understand.
Right.
All right, so you're here now. Obviously, I'm going to skip a little bit, just because I kind of like where this is going. So you're here, and you've what I consider, from looking on the outside in, and then knowing you as a good friend, watching you and your people where you are over there, with the group that you're with. You guys have been able to start something and grow it to what I consider ridiculously, like, large thing, right? And it's almost like every year you guys are just, you got something, man. And every year you're just like announcing stuff, and it seems to be under control. And it seems that you guys are doing, like, you guys are having an amazing impact there in Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for you, and for the listeners that don't know, me and Walter went to Tammy U. We lived together. We went to school together for 2 years. We played on the same team 2 years, and then we trained a little bit in Austin, with Coach David, and that's where we met. In Laredo. But so, how is it where you are now? Was this something that you always like had in the back of your head, or was academics for you, kind of like the path that maybe your family members took? Did you have that type of mentality, or were you more of a modern day, like, open minded kind of person, if that makes sense?
Yeah, my mindset changed quite a bit because when I was in high school, I actually didn't know what I wanted to study in college.
Mm.
Uh, the one thing that I knew that I actually liked is I loved cars. So I grew up watching my dad fix his car. So it's like always the thing I was close to my house. I'm like, well, I would do like I wanted to do engineering actually.
Okay.
Right. So that was my first thought. But when I went to my first school, which is UHV in Victoria, they didn't have an engineering program, and I had a scholarship. So I'm like, I'm gonna study business or whatever, right? So I wanted to do accounting, and I realized like I didn't want to sit at a desk and punching numbers because I was extremely social and I like to kind of work with people and organize and manage teams and stuff like that. So I cut that. So when I moved to TAMU, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do economics. And I got a minor in economics and a major in marketing. But I wanted to do engineering at TAMU, but the problem was we were traveling too much for soccer, and I was gonna miss a lot of classes. I didn't want to take that risk.
Yeah, no chance.
So I was like, well, I don't want to do that because if I was gonna go do engineering, I would like to be fully integrated in an engineering program. So I didn't do it. So whatever. So I I was a bit more open minded, I think, because I lived here. I came here at a younger age,
Yeah.
right? Even if I had the perspective, I always had. Well, my first goal was obviously to play professional soccer, which I had my trials and tribulations, and when I did, I think I did pretty good for my circumstance, and being that I was more or less on my own, and trying to push myself. I got myself to school and got myself a scholarship, and I did
Yeah.
those things on my own. Um, so I'm proud of myself for that. But what I wanted, I never had coaching in my mind, ever. I never had it in my mind. Never crossed my mind at all.
Correct. I never heard you talk about it.
Never. I remember one day at Forza with David, we were training, and I don't even remember how I was with the younger kids. I have no memory of it. I remember because we were thinking about ourselves because we were trying to go play in
Yeah.
Germany, right? I didn't think about the other kids. I was helping them. I remember helping them and trying to guide, but I never really thought like to train them in the moment where I'm trying to train myself. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I remember a mom And I actually think it might have been Dory's mom.
Okay.
I remember a mom pulling me to the side after a day. She was like, "Have you ever thought about coaching?" And I'm like, "No, that I would never. I know that never crossed my mind." She's like, "I think you'd be really good at it," and I did. I might just show the kid a pointer, but I don't remember. Or maybe I was serving a kid like volleys, and I was trying to guide them or something, right? But I don't think I did anything extraordinary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it almost like planted the seed in my head, right? So when I came back from Europe, this was in 27. Well, before I came back from Europe, I was like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I come back. I'm gonna finish school, which I did, but I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I have a friend who I played against in high school. He was like kind of a rival high school, and me and him played together in an indoor place where he worked at. And I saw that he was doing some sort of technical training and um, you know, sports performance stuff. But I knew we had a blueprint from David,
Right.
so I always had an edge, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, okay,
Leverage, essentially.
right, I had a pretty decent edge.
Yeah.
So when I was coming back, I'm like, so I wrote him like, hey, I'm coming back. I would like to meet with you and see what you're doing. So I went to see him, and then we talked a little bit, and then this was in 2017. So we started doing some small technical training on the side, and he was doing his stuff, and then he had, I don't remember how many clients. If he had clients, more for sports performance, he do some technical training on the side, and I got a client or two, and then it was like our first winter camp that year. I remember I had like 8 kids or something, right? I was like, this is the best thing ever. So
Yeah.
8 kids, great numbers. So what we had was we had a facility that was like 2/3 of it was a CrossFit gym,
Correct.
and a third of it was a turf field that we had set up, and it was big enough to you saw how small Forza was. So I'm like, this is perfect.
Mhm.
I was like, this is plenty of space. Trust
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I just watched some freaking crazy Vietnamese guy do it in a space that's like even smaller than this. So
Yeah.
like, I know you can do a lot in here. Um, so then we started working together, and then so I have 8 kids that winter, and then I think we did a camp when it was every break, like spring break, summer camp, and every time we did a camp, it was always like 4 extra kids, 5 here, multiple hours, blah blah blah. And then one day he was like, and I'm still doing school at this time. He's like, "Hey, I want to start a futsal program." And
You
I'm
said
like,
that?
"No," he said that
Okay.
to me, and I'm just like, "Yeah, fuck out of here," like whatever. Like I'm not interested in that right now. I would like to do technical training. He's like, "Dude, trust me. Like we should do futsal." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Just do your thing and let me know when it's ready." So he sets it up. He actually he's pretty crazy. So he applies for a nonprofit, which if you ever apply for one, it's a long process. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
I
like
heard.
a 200 page. It's like a lot of papers you got to fill out, and he does all this stuff, right? So we start off renting this church in Pasadena, and I never went to the first location because I was in school. I was kind of busy and stuff. And then we got this other church called Central Baptist, and then I went there one day, and I was just like, whoa. And I think I pride myself in the fact that I have what's a good word for it, like future sight. I can see where things can go.
Okay. Yeah.
If I understand what the thing is, I can see where it can go. you know so for soccer, I could always see where everything could go, pretty much most of the time, right? What I saw in that environment was I saw kids who I saw in the church has this, like, it had this thing, I don't know, this like ambiance to it where you couldn't really explain it. It was just like a it's like a different vibe, and I saw it's the simplest things. Kids were having fun. There was roof inside a building. Parents were just hanging out, and they were just like playing. Like
Hmm.
that's it. That was literally it. And I'm like, okay, there's something here for sure, right? So that happened, and then we grow that, right? So we went from technical training to doing futsal. So now we started doing every Friday open play futsal. This was like
Mhm.
free for everyone because we didn't have anything. That was just we're training kids from other clubs, right? That was like our business. So then we had open play Friday futsal. And the thing about what him and I would do is, if you do good job and people see the progress, they're gonna want more. It's just
100%.
natural, right? Because I say, okay, well, I see where my investment. I see that what the return on my investment is. So what's the next thing? So from open play futsal, I mean, now we start getting bigger in 2018. We start doing bigger camps. Now you got like 20 kids per camp, every like hour and 30 minutes. Uh, um,
Dang, that's a lot of
and
kids.
then and then we start doing open play futsal, and then we start hosting like tournaments, right? So we'll just throw kids together. We'll just come play every time in our gym, or we put kids together who would train, who are the same age. So we train, I don't know, like 6 or 7, um, 7, 8 year olds. We just put them in the team, throw a shirt on them, and have them go play. So that happened, and then when we're doing all of this stuff, then the next step was a club. That was the next thing, right? But I knew in my mind at the time we were not ready for it. I knew it because I had experience through playing and working at Forza. And so I'm like, I don't think we're ready. I told him like we should wait. But he's like, dude, what do you want me to do? Everyone's asking every time. He's like, what am I gonna do? And I'm like, okay, let me know. Let me show me what you've got, right? So he starts putting his plan together, and him and I go over it, and we join this like league with like 2 teams, right? That's how it starts. Fast forward to now, we're at, I don't know how many teams we have now. I think like 11 or 12 competitive teams
Yeah,
and a grassroots program, which is like 2018 born, and I think 2018 through like 2016, 2017.
right.
Um, and yeah, it's just crazy.
What? Sorry, was it? What's like? Do you have a rough estimate of like how many kids are involved in your program?
Between grassroots and our club kids, I would probably say, uh, I'll probably overbook this one. I'll probably say maybe like 160 kids, 170 kids, which is
That's
insane.
that's ridiculous.
And it's growing every year. So the issue we have now is controlling the growth, right? Because you want to keep the quality. So I don't want us to grow too big, right? So that's the thing with clubs. You grow too fast without the right staff, you lose quality quickly. And
Quick,
I
quick.
don't want. Also, have demands to have different ages of teams, but there's only so much we can do. Oh, also we have a WPSL team. So a WPSL team is a women's, it's called Women's Professional Soccer League. We have an under 21 team which started this past summer. So most of the kids who play in that league, the girls were training in 2017. So that it kind of came back full circle on that one, right?
Yeah,
Because we would just train them, but they begged us to start a club, but we could never start it because we weren't ready. And now they're actually playing for our club, which is insane.
yeah.
Now they're like 17, 18, some are like 19, some are in college, and they're playing for our club every summer, which is insane. And it's like, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time because they've been asking. And I'm like, just wait, just wait. And then we did it last summer, pretty successful. I think we had a pretty decent record of like, I don't know, 5-2 or something like that, or five, yeah, 5-2, or like 5-1-1, something like that. So a pretty successful season for the first year. Um, so yeah, that's, yeah, crazy.
That is honestly that's ridiculously incredible. Honestly, that you guys were able to get together and kind of grow that to where you are. I'm sure that's like a phenomenal example for anyone that would like to get in that similar business and kind of grow in that direction. I know Martin here has done a phenomenal job, with what he's done, growing from where essentially we started with one kid, from where he's at now, the connections he's made, and I think like both of you guys are in your respective areas are doing like ridiculous work. I mean, it's just obvious. Sometimes it's not so obvious. You gotta talk to a lot of people. Hey, how but it's obvious like how good of work that you guys are doing there in Houston. Now, what about you though, right? Like, what is your plans, moving forward, being, so involved with what you got going on now? What's the ideal situation for you if you have one, or you just so like mentally present and focused on what's going on now that you haven't really thought about it?
I always think about it, and the thing that I try to do every time is I try to beyond just what I would like to do in the future. Like I always question if I'm doing the right thing,
Mm.
right? And I think that's the way to keep yourself accountable. You can never be so confident that you think you're doing the right thing because there's so much information about everything, right? So you have to be very cautious of not searching for information. You have to find information, find education, and just keep growing yourself, because as a coach, growing yourself will grow your players, right? The more knowledge you have, the more you can pass on to your players. So for me, I always question to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So the one thing I love about our club is that the kids are so young, and if something's not working, we'll just change it right away. We don't have no fear of changing anything. Literally, like I would change it tomorrow. Like some clubs will wait like a whole season. I'm like, no, if it's not working, we'll change it right now and fix it. Because our kids are young enough to do that, and our clubs are young enough to do that. So that's why I love. Um, as far as that, I mean, I'm extremely present in what we're doing, but I think this year has been kind of difficult for me because I haven't really. When you don't, I had this quote I made up the other day. I'll try to remember, but when you don't have a sense of direction, nothing comes to you. You know what I'm saying? Like when you don't really know what you want, the universe will not provide it for you. You have to kind of know what you want sometimes. Sometimes you get
Oh,
lucky and you just kind of just fall into something, right? But when I had this thing I thought about the other day. It's like a man without a sense of direction is a dead man walking.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't have a sense of direction, sense of purpose, and something that's like driving you to get to the next thing, you almost like you're just walking on empty road with no direction, right? So I've been watching soccer for a really long time. And I mean watching, I mean like analyzing from like a coach's perspective. Because I was like I think 14. Only because I was so intrigued by tactics and understanding of players and why they did certain things and formations and just little aspects of the game that I've been watching. I used to record games. I used to skip my exams in college to watch Champions League. Like, I used to do crazy things like that, right? Um, and I've always, since I started coaching, and I see the progress I'm making with the kids and the club, I always think, I've always thought of like, what could I do at a higher level? I always thought that. Um, and I had a small experience with our girls this summer, and we did pretty well. But I always, I for me as a coach, standards, it's like the biggest principle. Like you
Mhm.
not have low standards ever, ever, ever. My kids know that. They know that I will not accept anything but high standards, right? So when they know something is not where it should be, they have this. They're almost like they almost like mimic me. Like they make my expressions. They like I kind of see that okay, they're thinking like okay, this is not good enough. We have to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So with everything I do, no matter how good the kids do, it's always like okay, what what did we do wrong and how can we improve that? So you always have to have an edge. So that's always the approach for me and the club and the teams that I coach. And I had the pleasure of coaching these girls this summer, and we had a good season. It was, I mean, if you only lose once or twice and win the rest, and it's a good season, right? Um, Especially being the first year program, but it gave me a taste of what I could do at a high level. So a high level could be coaching at a university next, um, with like a good project, um, and then I truly believe I can coach at a professional level. I don't know when, but I believe that I can. It just depends on when and how I want to go about it. because I just believe so highly in myself, not because I'm arrogant, but because I seek information,
Yo, yeah.
right? I just seek information constantly, and I have high standards. That, like, for example, watching. I know you watch the World Cup and a lot of the games, right? What upsets me about the U.S. national team? They have so many built-in excuses. I honestly cannot stand that.
Almost pre-programmed, like
I
just ready to go.
honestly, you like, and I'm in a bunch of group chats, right? And people are saying the same things that the commenters are saying, like, "Oh, we have a young team. We're so close." And I'm like, bro, if I was your coach, you would be shitting bricks because it's not acceptable what they were doing in some moments. I think technically they're not good enough. This is just my perspective. As
Mhm.
a national team at a World Cup, technically a lot of them were not good enough. Technically, a lot of them were not good enough.
I say majority.
Yeah. And as far as just common principles, common principles were no, the left back is a great example. Jedi. He is amazing at 1v1 defending. Amazing. His final third play, I have a 12-year-old who has better final third play.
Hmm.
And I'm dead serious. Like, I'm not even joking. This guy does so much hard work to get to the final third and literally give the ball away.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, bro. Like, how? And I think he can be a top left back, top, like, in the world. That's what I really think.
Yeah.
But his final third play is shocking. Like, literally, my 12-year-old would do better,
Yeah.
even at that age. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and the goals that were given in like, I didn't. I mean, this is like defensive principles 101, 101. But we talk about how we're a young team. We have to go in and build a style of play. You have to go and win. Like, it's a World Cup. Of course, I want to play good soccer, right? Of course, but it's a world tournament. You're going
Yeah.
to go there to
Once
win.
every 4 years.
You cannot have built-in excuses because
Yeah.
you're letting these players and you're giving them an escape route. That's all you're doing is building up their head that no matter what they do, it's okay. It's not like it's actually not okay. How is that okay? Those are just very low standards. So in the group chats, when I was agreeing with this, I'm like, these are just low standards. When you have low standards, players will not perform at the high level. It's simple. And they might get away with it once or twice. When you play against the teams who have high standards, you're not gonna win that game. It's
Mhm.
impossible. Right? So that's just like a small example of how I see certain things and how I just see the game in general. And obviously, I'm not obviously, but I'm massive on technical ability and building soccer IQ. But yeah, I just thought that was an example that they could have done much better and not. And the whole young thing. I mean, what are you talking about? I had a guy on Facebook argue with me on this. He
Mhm.
wrote me a long thing. He's like, because I said we are having built-in excuses for these 20, 21, and 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds at this World Cup, who I think when you compare them to other teams, they're not in the same stratosphere.
Mhm.
France has a young team. Like, France actually has a young core. Whether they're starting or not, it doesn't matter because in their clubs, they're starting almost every single game.
Yeah.
So in the next phase in 4 years, they're gonna be starting these tournaments. So what do you think their young players are gonna be doing?
Mhm.
Waiting for you to develop? Like, I don't know. Like, the thought process is crazy. It's like, oh, we are getting closer and we're so young. Brazil is young. Brazil has 21 and 22-year-old attackers, 20, 23. They're
Phenomenal.
they're phenomenal players at a top level. They're young. Where they start the game and not, they also have young players. But we in the US we have young players and they're gonna grow together and all this. This is just nonsense, man. just have higher standards. I mean, I think overall they did pretty well, but I don't like in the built and excuse stuff and saying that they're close to what? Like, what are you close to? What are you close to? Honestly. So that's kind of how I see the game. You cannot what's the word? You can't bargain on standards ever.
Yeah, of course.
So you let it creep in, done. You cannot have a bargain on that. So I don't like that. I don't bargain my kids on that. They all understand that what they need to do, and if it's good enough, I'm tell them you're amazing, you're killing it. It's not gonna. I'm like, hey, you're just not. You're not doing it. So don't even look at me like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
know the standards, right? We talk about it in the beginning of the season and we agree to it, and you understand. So when you and they, but the thing is, they know. So I don't really get so mad. I'm like, okay, they know, let it go. Talk about something different, but you have to set it high. You can't set it
yeah,
high enough, right? Um, and one thing I take is I think of as a coach after every season, I try to make sure that every kid that I coach has improved. If they haven't improved, that season was not good for me as a coach and as a manager, because it's
yeah,
not just coaching. You're a trainer, you're a coach, and you're a manager. Those are three different things, right? You have to manage personalities and characteristics, and at a young age you have to do that as well. All the kids are so different, right? So if I feel like a kid is not improving, then I always reevaluate my training sessions and what I'm doing, what I can improve to help everyone improve. That's the goal. Trying to give a kid a full package. So yeah.
yeah, man. Honestly, I can definitely see you coaching at a higher level. In the future. Whenever you're ready. Whether that be university, or professional. I think and I love what you said. Honestly, was the biggest thing, and everybody might have just kind of skimmed over. But when you said that you believe in yourself, not because you're arrogant, but because you seek information, I think that's the biggest key in anything that I think that's the big key to success for anyone doing anything is like the more information that you seek, the better chances you have at being good at whatever you're doing. And I think that's awesome, honestly.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm also a little bit arrogant.
honestly, like,
Like every man has an ego, right? Like every man has an ego, and I the thing is, I know that. Like I'm fully aware that I have a massive ego, but it's directed in the right direction, because
yes,
my ego is telling me to always reassess what I'm doing. That's the difference, right? My ego is telling me you need to learn this, you need to watch that, you need to study this. That's what my ego tells me.
yeah,
I just walk around saying you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. It's like we have to
but
find
not doing
information.
anything.
Right. We have to go seek knowledge.
Yeah,
My ego tells me that. It doesn't tell me that I'm the best thing walking on earth. I'm the best. I know there's people smarter than me, but I want to be as smart, and I'm gonna be smarter. Right. That's what my ego is driven towards. Um, so, and I am aware of everything and everyone in soccer. Everyone, everywhere, everything, every
mhm,
time. I'm aware of what players are doing, coaches are doing, if the kids are improving, what kind of style they're playing. I try to watch as much as I can and see the direction that soccer is going towards. Just because I'm just like extremely dialed in, and I have like bad tunnel vision when I coach. Like I can't see anything past. It's like the weirdest thing. I just walk by and I say, hey, hey, and I just like boom, and I just do my work and then leave it at that. So my ego tells me to be the best, not think I am the best, but to go and search to be the best. So
and honestly, I mean, sure, the word ego gets a bad rap, arrogant gets a bad rap, but I feel like everyone, first of all, has it. I feel like if you don't, I feel like it's necessary. It's a necessary evil, especially when you're in charge of trying to develop kids to be competitive as well.
right,
It's like, how do you show a kid to be competitive if you can't show that side of you? If you want to call it ego or arrogance or confident, whatever, you got to be able to emit that energy. I feel like it's a level of a specific energy that you're able to control and emit, to to whoever it is, or even yourself, like whatever you're trying to accomplish in life, you have to have that self belief. You have to be a little bit arrogant, man. Like that's the
Yeah.
reality of it.
Right.
Whether you're out, however you decide to show it or not show it, you're lying. If you're lying. If you're doing something in your life that you actually care about, and you're not a little bit arrogant, you're lying.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. And the one of the biggest things that I talk to my kids about is confidence.
Yeah.
I always make sure, and I try to do my best to make sure that my kids have bulletproof confidence. Because without that, nothing works. Your
Mhm.
first touch does not work. Your dribbling does not work. Look at Dembele in the final. He couldn't trap a soccer ball, bro.
Yeah, it was
He could
intense.
not trap a soccer ball. He was completely out of that game. Completely out. I think that was too big of a moment for him, and he had no confidence in that game, right? And he's a great 1v1 player. He couldn't do anything for 35 minutes, just running around, right? So I explained to my kids that no matter what I teach you, the one thing I want to take from me is that I care. I care about all my kids, and they know that. I love all my kids, and they know that. None of my kids will be like, "Hey, he doesn't care about me." They all know I care about them, and I care about them because I care about them and the sport and what they want to do because I've been there, right? And that's my approach to coaching is to care first. I care about them, and I make sure they have extreme confidence. I think those are extremely important. And it's weird. It's funny. The reason I actually do that is I had this coach when I was, I think, 14. New coach came to the team, this local team I played for here in Houston. And we did he came just like the first week, did a session or two or three. And then we had a game that weekend, right? And he called me Papi, Mexican guy. He's like, "Hey, Papi, you're going to score 3 goals today." I'm like, "What? Hey, you're going to score 3 goals today?" And I was so confused because no one had talked to me like that ever in my life.
Mhm.
Ever. So in my head, I'm like, why is this guy like, he doesn't even like know me. He's like, "You're going to score 3." I think we're like tied 2-2, and I scored the first one. I ended up getting 2 goals and an assist. But that's only because I remembered what he told me the entire game. That's all I can think about was like, I'm going to score 3 goals.
Mhm.
So I just ran. I couldn't stop running. Like I was just working so hard because in my head, he's like, "You're going to score 3 today." All right. So that prompted me to start approaching train and coaching. And I tell my kids, like, it doesn't matter how good technically you are. If you're not confident, it will not work. It would not work.
I agree.
And I'm like, what is, I'm like, why do you not have confidence? That's a better question. Why don't you have confidence? Right? Like, what is it? Like, let's talk about that, you know? And I think a lot of times in youth soccer, coaches coach, but they don't manage. You
Mhm.
have to manage. You have to be a parent. You have to be an uncle. You have to be a big brother. You have to be a mom. Like, you have to be a friend, a
Yep.
psychologist. You have to be all these things to kids because they need all of that in different moments. It's not just putting cones on and doing drills. It's actually understanding the kid and understanding what they need and how to get the best out of them. That's the thing. Your job is to get the best out of every single kid every season. That is literally your only job as a coach. If you're not doing that, you're not doing anything, right? If you're trying to develop high level players, you have to get the best out of them every season. Whatever that best might be, and that best might be it's different for every kid, right? Some kids might take 3 levels up in 6 months, and some might take one.
Right.
But maybe that one is their best at that time
Mhm.
because every kid has their moments where they're gonna shine. I had this one kid in my U13 team. He's super lanky, not the fastest kid in the world, left footer, but he's one of the smartest players I've ever coached. And I keep telling him like, I'm not. I know it sounds weird, but I'm not worried about you. Like right now, you're running a different race, Everyone's faster, everyone's stronger, everyone's quicker. I'm like, you know what your most important skill is? He's like, whatever, my skill or my I'm like, no, I'm like, you're smarter than everyone. You're smarter than everyone. I'm like, at some point when all this levels out, you're gonna be the best one on the field everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds super weird. I'm like, trust me. At when all this level, when you get to that, when you're 16, 15, 16, when your legs catch up to your brain, you're gonna be the best one on the field. I'm like, I'm telling you right now. I know it sounds weird, but that's having a future sight as a coach to see that, hey, this kid they're gonna have a different path, right? Think about all these like tiny players in Europe and Spain. They're like 5'4". If they were in America, like would they have been anything?
It's true.
No. But if you have future sight, you can see, okay, man, this kid is just different. Like I don't know what it is, but they're different. We have to nurture them, right? And that's the thing of a manager different kids at different levels. So maybe this kid I'm talking about, he might go up one level this year and next year, but I might have because it might go up 6 levels in 2 years
Mm-hmm.
because that is just biology. Like you know what I mean? Like you just can't. You have to let nature just run its course, right? So that's what I think coaches miss is they think it's just about the drills and it's like nah man like and I'm not worried about drills. Like I can do drills.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can teach soccer.
yeah,
And I'm always worried about like how can I get the best out of this kid? And that's how I approach every season, you know?
yeah.
Um so yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, it's hard to look at you and be like, you're doing it incorrectly, right? Because you're having success. So, and
And
like
I
you,
might be. I mean and that's the thing. That is the thing. I like to assess what I'm doing. If I am doing something wrong, I would just cut it out. For example, I have a method of how I structure training. So I plan the training sessions for the entire club. And this is like for, let's say, whatever, 10 teams, right? 10, 11 competitive teams. So I plan the sessions throughout the week. But I always try to cover specific topics throughout the week, right? But this season, I'm going to change it up because I feel like we can just get a little bit more out of them by changing just a small detail. But that small detail can change every single game. That's the difference, right? Like I am always like, man, how can I run a better session? How can I make it smoother? How can I make it more productive? How can I have the kids touch the ball a little bit more? And we touch the ball a lot, like
Mhm.
a lot. That is literally how we run sessions, right? But I found a way to tweak things where I can do things even better. But because I have to, I'm assessing myself,
Right.
right? I'm like, what am I not doing enough of? Not necessarily what I'm doing wrong. It's more like, what can I just do better? Because ultimately, I don't know if we do anything wrong. Because your idea and your mindset is to improve the kids, so you kind of go with a good approach, and you can see it obviously with our growth and how our kids are playing. But I always want them to do better, and I want us to do better. So I will look at myself and look at how I plan things and say, okay, how can I improve this in the season? Because I want to see everyone kind of moving at the same rate. So I'm going to change it in the spring, and it's going to be amazing. And the kids
Yeah.
are going to love it, and the parents are going to love it, and the coaches are going to love it. And I think it's they don't even know yet. They don't know what I'm going to do yet. So I think it's exciting, and it's going to be beneficial for my kids who are the oldest ones because they're U13 to get this different setup because it's just gonna be they're just gonna love it, you know. They just love being there and they're gonna love a little change here and there. So yeah.
That's good, man. Honestly, I think you got everything under control. Honestly, I don't. It's simply because of that. You seeking information. I think everybody there at the club's in good hands. With you, and then obviously you're a good judge. You have good what's it called? A judgment like of character. And I know you wouldn't be with the people that you're with if they didn't have the same uh, mindset as you or ideas or good intentions. And I think that's the best part about you guys is setup. But yeah, man, we're at a little over an hour, which is solid, not too
Yeah.
bad at all. Obviously, you know, this episode was a long time coming. We finally got it done. Um, I had a structure of how I wanted it to go. We probably followed about 40%, but I think it went perfect. I like to talk about as many things as possible, and then obviously getting your journey was a big part of it. Wanted to get that highlight, but well, honestly, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. For the A7E podcast. And anything that you want to say before we go? Anything, whatever aspect that you got.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to my brother, my partner, Jay Lazoya, and his wife. So Jay's my partner, as well as Angelica. Angelica is Jay's wife, and she's our admin. Without her, would be would be dead in the streets,
Yeah,
just running around half naked. So
yeah, yeah.
she literally makes our lives so much easier. I hate admin work, and she's just incredible at it. So she's the best. And now obviously my partner, an amazing person, super smart guy, extremely open, visionary, extremely creative. He started the whole futsal thing, and he convinced me to do it. And now, kind of look at where we are. And then he bugged me about the club thing. I'm like, just wait. And now look at where we are, right? So it's like, with him and I, it's like we're always bouncing ideas of each other and seeing who says yes first, right? It's like, I don't know. It's like, okay, let's think about it and stuff. So we kind of
Okay.
we work in that where it's like, okay, we have this idea, and all we are trying to do is provide the best that we can for the south of Houston, because the south of Houston and soccer has been neglected, I think, for quite a while. Neglected not mean that there wasn't, decent clubs out here, but just a club that's going to push a lot more boundaries than has been pushed in the past. And that is our goal, is to kind of bring, because there's amazing talent out here, to kind of show the talent to the greater city of Houston and Texas, and just keep growing at a good rate that God is going to bless us with. And yeah, we also got some amazing people in the background who do our coaching staff. They're amazing. We have an amazing family who's always helping us. They do a lot. They do a lot for us in the background that no one really knows about. And their daughter is one of my kids I've had for a long time. She's the one that's always like rainbowing girls on
Mhm.
my Instagram. So I always thank them as well, because they helped us quite a lot. So, and we have amazing families overall. You in every season you always get one or two families. You're just like, okay, I'm not so sure about this person, but overall, our parents are amazing, and they're very helpful, and they're extremely grateful. So we just appreciate everyone for trusting us with their kids' development, and yeah, just giving us a trust to kind of guide the kids in the right path and teach them, soccer and about life, because that's what it's about. So we're extremely grateful for where we are. We look forward to pushing more boundaries. And yeah, I appreciate you. I know we had a pre-recorded one we did a couple of months ago. I think that one has some gems. We might have to pull that out somewhere. I don't know if you saved it, but
I do got it, but it's technically, literally technically hard to say. But I mean, I definitely agree. There were some gems in there for sure.
yeah, that one was some heat. I was
Yeah.
in the garage, and yeah, I thought there was some good stuff there in that one as well. But yeah, man, I appreciate you for giving me your platform to talk about my journey in our club. And yeah, if you want to move to Houston, and we have a club ready for you, I'll pull a team like that. I'll get a team, two teams, just snap of my finger. Just when you want to move, just let us know, and get you involved with as many things as we possibly can. But I appreciate you so much. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. And guys, with that being said, thank you guys for listening to episode 39 of the A7E podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, share the episode with anyone who enjoys podcasts in general. If you're going to work, coming back from work, you're cleaning around the house, and you like listening to the conversation, I definitely think this was a good one. Yeah, I appreciate all you guys' support more than you know. So yeah, thank you so much again for listening to episode 39 of the A7E podcast. This is your host, Jigga Dren. Until next time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.